Good evening, and welcome to another strange, but we hope productive Sports Nightly here tonight. Hopefully everybody is staying safe, taking the proper precautions with everything going around with the virus here again today. Sports Nightly will continue along as always and do so in a big way here this week as we welcome into the program now Nebraska Athletic Director Bill Moos. Bill, I can only imagine what your life has been like this last few days and this last week. Let's just start first with how you're holding up with all this news.
Well, I'm holding up very well, and I think our staff is too. We're experiencing, of course, something that's new and frightening, but we're being as cautious as we possibly can, and of course, keeping the safety and well-being and health of our student athletes and our staff uppermost in our minds. So as for me, I'm holding up real well and feeling good myself, washing my hands far more than I used to, but hey, it's all working out so far.
Well, that's great to hear. I know this can be very confusing, especially for decision makers, and you're in charge of so many departments and individuals, and these decisions can't be made lightly. Let's just, before we start diving into all the details and intricacies with this, let's just start first with kind of when this was on the radar and the talks needed to start being had about a response to this.
Well, as you know, this has been talked about, and it seemed like it was a more growing concern. We were actually in a Big Ten meeting prior to the first evening of the men's basketball tournament in Indianapolis. We'd scheduled that meeting to talk about name, image, and likeness, and because of all of the concerns around the coronavirus, we shifted to that topic for most of that meeting. And as we were talking, more and more things started to appear on the radar, and we started to get a little bit concerned about whether that Big Ten tournament should proceed, now that nothing had been canceled yet. And it was during the course of that meeting that the outbreak of a couple of NBA players, and before we knew it, some of the conferences were starting to consider canceling their tournament, and here we were going to be opening the doors for the two games that we were going to be playing there in Indianapolis. So we decided to play those two, and as we left, we were going to play the rest of those tournament games, but with just select family, media, and needed staff in the building. And obviously, as the evening went on, that all changed, and it was a late night.
Yeah, without question, and I have to imagine just the amount of conversations and thought process happening with not just you, but everybody associated with that situation. Well, let's bring it to the present time. Currently, what are you telling your student athletes and your coaches, and kind of the latest news that you can share with us?
Well, the leadership has been, I think, just exceptional, and I'm talking about Kevin Warren, the new commissioner of the Big Ten, and also our president, Ted Carter, and, of course, on our campus, our chancellor, Ronnie Green. This is pretty much 100% of what we're focused on right now, and again, that includes looking out for our students, and in our case, our student athletes. We really felt at the end of the week within athletics and talking to coaches and staff that the best place for our student athletes to be would be here in Lincoln, where we've got the medical professionals within the building. We've got proper nutrition. We've got all the services that we need, academics and even psychological and all of those things right here. We have not had outbreaks here in Lincoln, as I understand still, and there have been just a handful even in the States. So what we wanted to do is not mandate, but encourage our student athletes to stay put. One of the things that can be a concern about our location, in regards to recruiting and such, really in this instance we felt was a real plus. And yet we understand parents and their feelings of getting their sons and daughters home and all that, but we felt this was the best environment for them. And then the conference had said, well, there will be no organized activities, athletic team activities, and so that kind of put some barriers there, and wisely so. And so we had to, day by day, and we've been meeting every day, adjust as we go as to what the latest word is from health professionals and those that are in the know across the country and really in the world. So right now I would say we have probably half of our student athletes still here. We are feeding them. We're going to go to a takeout, grab and go. We've been cautious and making sure that we are not in groups. If there are student athletes that want to work out and they're in a sport that needs supervision and someone there because of the nature of it, gymnastics being an example, we're going to allow that, but no coaching, no watching film, no organized team practices or anything like that until further notice.
Talking with Bill Moos, Nebraska Athletic Director here on Sports Nightly. I'm Ben McLaughlin, and Bill, I know, speaking personally, Greg Sharp and myself, we were in a car on our way to Wichita when the news broke that we should turn her around and head back to Lincoln with all this. And obviously decisions need to be made rather quickly. I know our baseball boys were getting ready to load up the bus and head to Wichita. But what's the thought process of making these decisions, especially when quick action in this case was needed, before any type of playing on the field?
Yeah, again, it comes back to the health and safety and well-being of these young people, and also our staff. We had a communication from the president on Sunday that allowed our staff to have 80 hours of comp time to be home, work from home if they feel they need to. We've got to remember that we've got a lot of people that work here, and we've got a huge workforce who have young children who are not going to school right now and who may not be in daycares. So we want to certainly be sensitive to that. At the same time, our university is running, our athletic department is running. We've got decisions not only on this very important topic, but others that have to do with financial pieces and all kinds of things that have to be addressed on a day-by-day basis. So we continue. I've always felt the most important thing is to make sure that we're communicating properly. We had 3 meetings today, one with a group that I put together that really is brainstorming in the various areas. It includes my senior staff and additional people to say, what should we do in training tables? Should we take some of the chairs out of there so these student athletes can't congregate? And now we're most probably going to go to a strictly a grab and go and just try to keep them separated as much as we can. Those are the kind of decisions that we're making sometimes hourly. We made that one just an hour ago. there's so many other topics to be concerned about. What about our spring sport student athletes who had their seasons cut short? Think about the seniors and others who may have exhausted eligibility. Are they going to get that year back? And those are conversations we're having with the conference. A big meeting on that tomorrow, or a conference call, and to again be in a caring mode about those people who had their seasons cut short, and even the winter sport student athletes who were having exceptional seasons, both team and individually, that weren't able to compete for national championships and all that. Wrestling would be a good example of that. So we want to make sure we're doing the right things. We wanted both short-term and long-term. And I've given you an example of both of those, Ben. And day by day, these decisions are changing, and they're have huge impact. And financially, hey, that's important. It's not more important than the health and welfare of these student athletes. But we start talking about lost revenue, and you take a NC2A men's basketball tournament off the table. We're talking billions there, and not to us, but to member institutions. So it's an ongoing process, and it changes daily.
Bill, I know it can be really hard to narrow your focus on one particular issue right now with so many issues to cover, as we've talked about extensively here in the last 10 minutes or so. But one of the things that's probably going to come up in your meeting tomorrow is how many different avenues this eligibility relief will touch. You've got a lot of spring student athletes in softball and baseball and other sports that, already have opportunities lined up after graduation. Managing the rosters, the limited scholarship amounts in baseball. There are so many branched off effects. How much attention are you able to give these issues right now, knowing that there are so many things that you need to cover?
Yeah, and that's a great question. So the first order of business was the student athlete welfare, and that'll be ongoing because that's the top priority. Tomorrow we will be visiting, as I mentioned, as a conference with our compliance people, both within our various 14 programs and also at the Big Ten, to have a discussion about the eligibility piece. And you touched on it a minute ago there, Ben, and the piece that has to do with expanding the roster and giving these young people a chance to have a final season, the way that they deserve to have it. There'll be a cost involved in that too, because we're going to have to add scholarships, probably just for 1 year, but and that's both head counts and equivalencies for our listeners. That's sports like football and basketball and volleyball, that everyone gets the same scholarship, and then others that you mentioned, like baseball and softball, that divide scholarships amongst the various members of the squad. Boy, we got to really dig into this and get a feel for what the financial piece of it's going to be as well. So that's the next conversation as we still continue to keep the health piece as our priority.
Talking with Bill Moos, Nebraska Athletic Director here on Sports Nightly. I'm Ben McLaughlin. Bill, I've made a lot of people mad because we've been talking for 15 minutes, and the one question everybody wants to know about, fans, media, everybody listening, is about spring game and the spring football practice schedule. Can you shed any update or light on that situation with us?
Yes. Well, we first of all, within the conference and around the country, spring football started in a different time. So we, out of 15 practices, we still have 13 left. We only have practiced twice. And when could we realistically hope to regain those practices in a schedule somewhere? And that we don't know yet. I will say this, that The spring game is not going to be on the 18th of April, and most probably will not occur at all. I hate to say that. We've got so many fans that's their only opportunity to see the Huskers, but we've also been drawing close to 90,000 fans for a spring game, and that's far more than is being allowed or recommended by a variety of sources. So most probably there won't be a spring football game on the 18th, most probably not one at all. I think in a perfect world, if we can get our arms around the virus and people can start to feel comfortable in our environment and where we're at, maybe we could get those 13 practices back in June or so during summer school. Hopefully that would be the case. And you look at some schools who around the country that started spring football very early, maybe down in the SEC, and they also went to a bowl game, so they may have 30 more practices than a lot of other schools, or 28 more than the University of Nebraska, and that's a heck of an advantage that we need to recoup somewhere. And I say that because if they were in a bowl game, they're going to get 15. They're in spring football, they're going to get 15. There's a total of 30, of which we've now had 2. So we've got to have that discussion, which I believe will be included in our talks early tomorrow morning, and we'll get a better feel for what my colleagues are thinking along those lines.
Very well said. Nebraska Athletic Director Bill Moos with us here on Sports Nightly. Dorothy Lynch Homestyle Dressing and Condiment is the one-of-a-kind taste that goes with anything, good for game day or any day. Dorothy Lynch, endless flavorabilities. Also, thank our friends at Woodhouse. Shop Woodhouse first. 18 brands, 18 locations, one team to help you get on the road faster. Woodhouse Auto Family, the official auto dealer of Nebraska Athletics. This is Nebraska Athletics Radio Hour here on Sports Nightly. We'll take a break. We got more from Athletic Director Bill Moos coming up. Shop Woodhouse first. 18 brands, 18 locations, one team to help you get on the road faster. Woodhouse Auto Family, the official auto dealer of Nebraska Athletics. And Nebraska says 811, go dig red before you dig. It's always free and easy. Always call or click 811 to have your utility lines checked. It's the law. Welcome back to Nebraska Athletics Radio Hour. Ben McLaughlin, joined by Nebraska Athletic Director Bill Moos, covered extensively the current news and situation going on about the coronavirus that's affected everybody's lives almost worldwide, but not the only thing happening in Husker athletics. Bill, before this pandemic spread across our state and our world, one of the big topics around college athletics was the NIL bill, name, image, and likeness. And your head football coach, Scott Frost, addressed this at his press conference about some potential changes. Let's just start first with, the general question, which is the conversation that you had amongst other university leaders about getting ahead in this thing and controlling that message before it became streamlined and just jumping on what everybody else was doing.
Yeah, I've watched this very carefully, and I think it was inevitable that it was going to emerge, and certainly has. Now, where it goes, we're not sure yet. I do applaud, again, our conference in particular of really trying to get our stance on it, and we had some very, very good information and that was compiled that we were able to look at during the meeting. And as I mentioned earlier, the coronavirus was the main topic, but we did get into the name, image, and likeness piece. And I've said publicly that this is inevitably going to happen. Nebraska wants to be out front. We want to be the first to have our plan in place, to be educating our student athletes, to be working with them on their social media and developing their brand. We don't know exactly where this is exactly going to go. We're starting to get a better feel for it. but I felt it was important to secure the very best that I feel that could do this, and they're right here in town, and that's Open Doors, who work with professional athletes and a variety of other folks that they have agreements with, and we're just very excited to be able to utilize them to come in and work with our student athletes. And as we gain more information as to what this end product is going to look like, we'll already be out of the chute. That's an old rancher's term, but my wonderful fans understand that, and we'll be well down the lane and be ready to be ahead of the game in regards to taking care of our student athletes and also helping in our recruiting efforts.
No doubt about it. It's always important to be ahead of the game, and innovative in your way of thinking, especially in the competitive world of college athletics. But at the end of the day, how much does it help at a place like Nebraska with the fan support that they can show tangible results, how much they support and care about these athletes and, want to get involved with their brand, how they want to perceive themselves, and their social media as well?
Oh, it's amazing. And, there's a reason that we're in the top 3 or 4 with our multimedia rights because our brand is solid. And we're not in a huge metropolitan state. I mean, this is one of the most fabulous things about Nebraska is we've got a lot of elbow room. We got clean air. We've got all the outdoor activities, and yet we pack our venues. We got this passionate fan base that we love and appreciate, and these folks out there in multimedia rights and with the ability to attract possibly down the road student athletes to endorse products and to do things that is huge in Nebraska because of the following of our passionate fan base.
Bill, one of the things that is going to come with this is, and you mentioned it a little bit, talking about Open Doors, is just the education and how these young men and women can, really put their ideas, their their image and likeness onto paper and use their social media in an advantageous way. But when coming up with these ideas, how much is the education part talked about? Of you might have one athlete that's really savvy with it and another athlete that's not really savvy about it, and they both have equal opportunity to be successful in this. But just the education part to this and making this successful.
Oh, it's very important, and for our fans that are listening, and I will repeat this, I'm sure, many times. Open Doors will come in here and they will look at each one of our student athletes' social media piece and say, hey, this is not going to help you. Why have you got this? You don't need to be spouting off about this, that. That's not going to help your individual brand, and it certainly isn't helping the Nebraska brand. I'm not saying that we have a lot of that, but if we do, and we do have some, let's clean that up. And let's start focusing on things and areas that are going to enhance that student athlete's own brand and also the wonderful brand that we have at the University of Nebraska. So that in itself is going to be extremely valuable. And then where do we go from there? I'm just going to use an example. A student athlete wants to have a grocery delivery business or their own line of jewelry that they want to make. Should they be able to market themselves? Should they create their own brand? Can they use the Nebraska brand along with it? This all needs to be looked at and determined before we finish here. And as I've said before on the program with Greg, this is going to be a national situation. Every campus wants a little something different. Every state, I think there's over 30 of them, or maybe as many as 35, including Nebraska, that has legislation pending or already passed and they're all a little bit different, and they have different start times. I have been assured, and my colleagues, that nothing is set in any of these states until 2021, so we do have a little bit more breathing room. Florida, I believe, was ready to start in June of 20, and that's been pushed back. So the urgency piece isn't as important, and the more time that we have to make sure we do it right, I think, is of utmost importance.
Bill, what's been the feedback you've gotten from coaches about this? I would imagine, if there were any sour about it, you say, well, you can use this to help you in recruiting, and their, frown got probably turned upside down. But what's been just the reaction of the coaches about this initiative and about the support that they're given from you and your staff?
I think that in our conversations, I know that they, whether they've been gung-ho on it or resistant, they realize that this is the world we live in now. And let's do it right. Let's make sure that, again, as I mentioned a moment ago, let's be out front and be the best at it, and so that we can use it as a recruiting piece. You come to Nebraska, we've had a stadium sold out since 1962. We sell out our basketball arena and have great attendance for the women's program, sell it out for the men's. Look at volleyball, you can't get a ticket for it. And when you start talking about that, then that brand, not only the Nebraska brand, comes out in the forefront, but in their minds, if they're thinking of branding themselves, there's a market right there. And that is what we will emphasize, along with all the many other things that we provide for these young people that are unparalleled. And that's not just my opinion, that's fact, in college athletics. So it's a pretty good option for the top talent around the country to take a real good look at the University of Nebraska, and we're going to look at this as being another piece that's going to be attractive to the prospective student athlete.
Sports Nightly Hotline is brought to you by Woodhouse Auto Family, bringing you more choices in brands, locations, and service. Experience the difference. Purchase with confidence. This is Woodhouse. Nebraska Athletic Director Bill Moos here with us on our monthly Athletic Director Show. We'll take a break. We got more coming up on the other side.
You're listening to Sports Nightly. This is the Husker Sports Network.
Sports Nightly Hotline is brought to you by Woodhouse Auto Family, bringing you more choices in brands, locations, and service. Experience the difference. Purchase with confidence. This is Woodhouse. This is the Nebraska Athletics Radio Hour. Ben McLaughlin joined by Nebraska Athletic Director Bill Moos. Bill, we talked a little bit about some of the sports that were cut short, and one of the teams that we wanted to highlight, especially with their recent success and all the success that they had this year, just really an outstanding year on the mats for Mark Manning and the Nebraska wrestling team. Obviously, your heart breaks for every athlete and every team, but this is one that you really feel like we're catching their stride and was going to bring a school record 10 wrestlers with them to nationals.
Yeah, I mean that's a classic example, and Mark, he loves his wrestlers. They've had an outstanding year. Finished second in the Big Ten, and this is one tough wrestling conference, as you well know, and putting 10 into the nationals, and now there won't be nationals. It's extremely difficult, and he was one in our conversations today with our head coaches that really was intent on listening to the prospects of those student athletes being able to come back and have another year. That would be the second piece of what we're going to talk about when the conference is on the phone early in the morning, and first being the spring sports and then the winter sports who were not able to compete in the championships. So really proud of Mark and his staff and our Husker wrestlers. A great year, and I've always felt that was one of the most stable, successful programs that we have currently, and I see only more great things in the future.
Just been a phenomenal run for Coach Manning. with working with Jordan Burroughs, the Olympic team, James Green, and obviously his success at Nebraska too, especially this year, as you said, finishing second in the Big Ten. That's almost like winning a national tournament in itself for how tough of a conference that it is. So their season ends disappointingly, and another season ended too, Bill, and that was Nebraska basketball. And I know it was really hard to watch Coach Hoiberg not feeling well and bringing two football players. I honestly felt like I was living a dream with the NBA being canceled and watching Noah Vedral and Brant Banks run a pick and roll. It was really hard to comprehend what I was watching, but just recap for us what you can, just the last week that Nebraska basketball has had, and wrapping up year one under Coach Hoiberg.
Well, Fred and I, in our conversations early on, knew that this was going to be a challenging season, and a lot of new faces on the court. I thought we competed hard. The conference was extremely tough this year, and again, it's too bad that we didn't have the March Madness national tournament, NC2A tournament, because we could have had a record number of schools involved in that this year. But that being said, we had tremendous talent that was sitting on the bench. We're not eligible, that now are for the coming season. We've got some really impressive recruits that are committed to us, and I really feel good about where we're going. But there were some disciplinary actions that were taken that I backed 100%. You make your point when you have a coaching change, and you make it early, and people who don't follow the team rules aren't going to be part of the team. And I like that, and but it cut our roster pretty short. And if I may say, this is Nebraska. This is why I think we have the best fraternity of coaches, men and women. I'm proud to say I hired 9 of them. The ones I didn't hire, I love, care about each other. And so here's Fred Hoiberg with an undermanned roster going into the Big Ten tournament, and here's his colleague and friend Scott Frost agreeing to take a couple of football players who had some good experience as high schoolers, as you well know, on the Maple Court, and suited up and even saw some action. So this is what Nebraska's all about. And hey, it is Power 5. You don't expect to see this. We probably are never going to see it again here, but when the chips were down, we had one coach come in and offer to help the other.
It's a sight that no Husker fan will ever soon forget. Shop Woodhouse first. 18 brands, 18 locations, one team to help you get on the road faster. Woodhouse Auto Family, the official auto dealer of Nebraska Athletics. We're back to wrap it up with Bill Moos after this. Back one final time with Nebraska Athletic Director Bill Moos. I'm Ben McLaughlin. Bill, would be remiss if we didn't finish by congratulating one of the most iconic Husker football players of all time for the highest honor you can receive in college, the National College Football Hall of Fame. Eric Crouch, have to be pretty proud to send another former alum into one of that prestigious group.
Well, we better hurry up and get our new football building built, because we're running out of wall space for our Hall of Fame inductees, and no one more deserving than Eric Crouch. A wonderful gentleman, a great player, and a wonderful representative of the University of Nebraska to this day. And so, of course, he joins Johnny Rogers and Mike Rozier, our other 2 Heisman Trophy winners. And I got to tell you, I've served on the honors court that selects these players, and there's a stockpile of them, and there's a stockpile of Nebraska players that are eligible, and you need to have been a first-team All-American, first team, not second, third, honorable mention, first team, and we could put 3 or 4 in a year. and still have a stockpile. That's what the tradition and legacy is of Nebraska football. So I'm so excited. I'll be in New York with my wife Kendra to see Eric get inducted next December, and so deserving, so proud and happy for Eric Crouch. What a great player and a great guy.
Yeah, it truly is just so cool to see that, and obviously for him a much-deserved honor, and for Nebraska a source of pride, no doubt. And I can only imagine the feeling you have to see one of our own get inducted into the Hall of Fame. Well, Bill, I know it's just been I don't even know, there's not a word for the week that you've had having to make the decisions. On behalf of all of us, we thank you for going to work and making these really tough decisions, and of course the student athletes and their well-being. Thank you so much for giving us some of your time on very precious time right now, and we wish you nothing but the best of luck here in the short term. Look forward to talking again real soon.
Thank you, Ben, and great job yourself. It would be tough for Greg to get the mic back, but go Big Red.